Behold, will you, the noble sons of Europe. From Seve's fire to Olazabal's cool, from Sergio's heart to Rambo himself, the Spanish Armada sails eternal. From the Italian Renaissance of Francesco Molinari, ice cold in Paris, to Irish poetry courtesy of McElroy, Clark and Harrington. From England's Jacqueline, Faldo, Westwood and Poulter, veins coursing with blue and gold, to Scott's Gallagher and Montgomery roaring like the Highlands. From Sweden's Henrik Stenson, cold-blooded when it mattered most, to Germany's Martin Keimer, who froze the Americans at Medina with a single putt. And oh, Medina, the miracle, when Europe rose from the ashes of certain defeat and the Americans tasted despair on their own sacred soil. Let the record show, no American triumph has been forged on European ground since the last century. They may talk loud, but they cannot conquer us. And then, when they do triumph on their own soil, it is too often with a legacy of gamesmanship, bad manners and ill feeling left behind. The scars of the Kiowa Shore and Brookline remain. But while America squabbles and blusters, Europe unites. No politics or agents of division can break this brotherhood of nations, bonded forever in blue. So raise your voices to the heavens, sing with one tongue, in many accents, for the Ryder Cup belongs to Europe, by history, by spirit, by right. We love the Americans really, but you know, gotta get the blood pumping. This is a Sporting Almanac podcast. Good afternoon, Ben.
Hello, mate.
How are you today?
Yeah, I am okay. How are you? How did Wigginton get on?
How did Wigginton get on? A lot better this week than last week. A good win, first win of the season, and onwards and upwards.
Nice. But yeah, like obviously been in lots of news over the past couple of weeks, some of which we didn't cover in our Aussie Rules episode. Good and bad.
Good and bad. Very much good and bad, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the bad and I'll uplift us with the good?
Yeah, so Ricky Hatton's sad passing. Obviously, he's a generational sort of, for our generation, watching boxing. We saw about boxing before, and if you're into boxing, you go a bit deeper and you get the sort of the depth of the talent and you understand what's going on. But obviously, if you're not massive boxing fans, which I don't think we really were generally growing up, It takes sort of the superstars to penetrate your consciousness. And one of them, very much in the United Kingdom, was always Ricky Hatton in the 2000s, that sort of era. A larger-than-life character, obviously had his troubles, but just sad.
A hearts and minds
really
boxer.
Sad.
A hearts and minds boxer, because he's a working-class lad from Manchester. Big following, very relatable, probably exceeded his... This isn't to undermine his talent, but he probably exceeded his talent in some ways through hard work. And that's always the kind of guy that will get the British public on your side. So yeah. Yeah,
especially in a sport which has such a heavy working class following as boxing. He's people's champion, ultimately.
People's champion is a good way of putting it. And apparently a very nice, accommodating man. So yeah, it is sad. Very sad, yeah.
In
more lighter and happier news, it was awesome to see Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce make the women's 100-metre final at the age of 38. Obviously,
38 years young.
Yeah, she's
older than us.
Turning 39 at the end of this year. Still making 100-metre finals. The greatest to ever do it. So that's awesome. The men's 100-metre final was also a bit of a thriller, with the Jamaicans taking back the title that the Americans have been hanging on to recently. So that's happier news. But we're going to talk about the Ryder Cup.
We are going to talk about the Ryder Cup, which is the source of some of our happiest memories in sport, I would say, me and you. Certainly one event in particular, which I'm not going to lie, we're going to go pretty heavy on today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've never been so engrossed in a television as I was during the 2012 Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Watching Europe slowly chip away at that advantage and eventually
Kamer's putt. Oh, fantastic.
It's just
It's an iconic moment in what was an incredible sporting year.
yeah,
Incredible. I mean,
yeah, is
to be British
yeah.
with the Olympics and Tour de France and everything else.
Andy Murray's first Grand Slam.
Yeah. Jesus, what a year.
If you're Welsh, Wales won the Grand Slam in rugby as well that year.
Yeah.
It was the end of the Premier League season with Aguero.
God almighty, what a year.
Yeah, it was insane. 2012 may never be beaten. But you're quite right. I mean, the adverts have started for the Ryder Cup for this year, and they're basically saying it's like there's no golf like it, which I actually think is quite a good tagline because I don't know. Can you surmise its charm?
I think the Olympics particularly are missing a trick when they don't have a team competition in the golf. It's just the same as every other competition. Team golf is an absolute joy to behold, especially match play team golf, because it takes everything about golf. You have to be very calm and collected and logical and cerebral when you're playing golf, because you have to, is this a good decision? Is there a better way I can approach this shot? In match play, in team match play particularly, especially when it's 4-ball or foursomes, whichever one it is where you have your own ball, 4-ball, you can be aggressive. You can be so aggressive.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And in being aggressive, when you get it right, the crowd go mad, your teammates go mad. You get this wave of momentum that is like nothing else you ever see in golf. You can't get that. You can't get your blood pumping that much to an individual. Team golf is absolutely where it's at.
It basically lets the players play to the maximum of their talent. Like, because obviously there's a degree of conservatism when you're playing singles or individuals balls, or even when you're playing foursomes and alternate shots, because as you quite rightly say, you're sort of having to assess the probability of the success, the risk reward. Whereas when you're playing 4-ball, it's just like, let's just go for it. Because if one of us, if it comes off, then we're going to win the hole.
Yeah, you often see these 4-ball partnerships where it is your maverick and your steady guy. Obviously, I'll be talking later about one of the most iconic partnerships of that type in Ryder Cup history. But yeah, there's so much space for a maverick in team golf in Ryder Cup.
Yeah,
because as I say, when you get it right, the crowd, the team, everyone, wave of momentum.
Yeah, it's so good.
Wonderful. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're not interrupting. Is that a good place to sort of start then, the format? Because we're sort of talking in a bit of jargon from out the gate here.
Yeah, we've got to be careful because unlike Aussie rules and unlike
volleyball.
Unlike volleyball, yes. Sorry, we've done too many episodes this weekend. Unlike those, we do kind of know about this. So let's slow it down. Let's explain how it works. So anyone who's not watched a Ryder Cup before and wants to this year, we can lay it out for them. You go.
As we've said, it's a team sport and it's a match play event. And what that means is that you have a series of matches over the course of a weekend, 3 days, Friday, a Saturday and a Sunday. And every match is worth 1 point. And on the first day, they have a game of foursomes. So 4 players, 2 from each side, go out with 2 balls and they hit alternate shots. So it will be, me and Jack playing together. Jack hits the tee shot, I hit the next shot. Jack hits the next shot, I putt, so on and so forth.
I think you're overestimating our talent there. Well, we're getting it down in 4.
Doing it par 4. But anyway, so you have your foursomes, the alternate shots, and then you have your 4 balls, which is, as it sounds, 4 players, 2 from either side, but 4 balls. And you take your best ball score, you take your best ball score for that particular hole. So whichever team has the lower score out of the 2 players wins that hole. And then on the final day, which is sort of where it all really comes to a head, you have the singles, and that is the only day where everyone is guaranteed to play.
Yeah.
Because you'll have 12 single matches, because there's 12 aside, and everyone will face off in a pairing. Everyone only plays 1 game, but obviously you just play each hole. Whoever has the lowest score on the hole wins the hole. Whoever wins the most holes over the course of the 18, and obviously it can end shorter if you're ahead by an insurmountable number of holes, wins that point, and that's how that works. You just aggregate the points over the weekend, and the team that comes out on top with the most points wins it. And because it's obviously only 2 teams, if you are going to win it back, so Europe are the holders this year. So if Europe for Europe to win, rather, they will only need to get 14 points because you can draw, basically, and the holder retains. But if you want to win it back, you need to get 14.5 points. And how do you get a half point? Well, you just draw a match, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
The thing that's pretty cool about it is that the pairings are like effectively secret. So America don't declare who they're playing in their foursomes or their four balls or how they're going to order their singles. And then Europe gets to decide who they match up against, or vice versa. Both captains have to make their selections and put them in an envelope and hand it over to the other side or the match referee. And then that reveals the matchups. And so it becomes very strategic about how you pair up your team. So you decide who to pair up together and in what position to put them out, with a view to trying to second guess your opponent. So the singles is the easiest way to explain it, because obviously foursomes and four balls are a little bit more complicated because they're actually sort of mini teams and there aren't as many games. But in the singles, you might consider putting all of your best players in the first 5-6 games with a view to winning those games to get points, start accumulating points and putting pressure on your opposition, so that your weaker players, if you want to call it that, considering that these are normally the 12 best players from Europe or America, so nobody's weak, but you're not your world number 1 basically, or your world number 2, but your world number 12 may have a slightly not easier time of it, but might benefit from
less
the pressure exactly that's been asserted against them. So it's a really cool event for that reason.
And so every year, obviously 12 players are selected on each team, but every team as well selects a captain, and a captain tends to be a non-player. In fact, there was actually this season's captains, the USA captain Keegan Bradley. If it was just the best 12 players in the United States who qualified to play, could have easily picked himself as a player justifiably, but he chose not to in the circumstances. So he is obviously a non-playing captain. The last playing captain was 1963. Do you know who that was, Ben? Or do you want to have a guess? The drink named after him.
Arnold Palmer,
who was also the youngest captain until, I think
they're the same age, aren't they?
Bradley is the youngest captain since Palmer, in 1963.
39.
Which is impressive.
Very impressive. Bradley has played in 2, though.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the captain's the one who makes all these picks, so the captain has to be thinking constantly about tactics and about how to best apply his pieces, his little chess pieces across the board. As you say, some players might play. Everyone plays the singles. Some players might only play the odd foursome match or four ball or whatever, or may not play at all. They may only play the singles in theory.
That has happened.
Whereas some players may be playing constantly. So yeah, it's all about the captain putting his best pieces in the right places and it all coming together.
Yeah,
it's great. Team golf is great.
It is really, really good.
So good. And as much as I don't want to dilute the Ryder Cup by there being more of it, I certainly think the Olympics, there should be a team golf event to go alongside the singles golf event, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout at all. A bit like, they have like a mixed triathlon and that sort of thing now, like the relay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could always have a mixed men and women's team. Doesn't have to be a men's team or a women's team.
That's true. That would also be very interesting, actually. Maybe like a 4-a-side mixed tournament, because then I think you only take 2 individuals to the Olympics anyhow. Good idea. Why don't we pitch it to the IOC?
I'll get on that. You carry on explaining how all this works.
Well, you sort of started talking into sort of going into the selection process. So I guess that's another place to probably do some explaining, because it's not actually that straightforward. These things never are.
And it keeps changing.
And it changes.
For Europe especially.
Yeah, Europe changes it a lot and have actually changed it this year. America, they have the top 6 players. They basically call it the Ryder Cup points list. And the top 6 players in that list will qualify automatically, so they don't need to be selected. And then you have the captain, as you say, receives a discretionary selection of 6 other players. And the points are awarded as follows. So a major championship, 1 point per $1,000 earned, because obviously the Americans do it on the Benjamins. The Players' Championship, 1 point per $1,000 earned. And then, and that's for 2024, sorry, so because it's a 2-year cycle. And then 2025, so the year in which the cup is being held, you then have 1.5 points for every $1,000 earned. Although the PGA Tour events remain 1 point. And then, you end up in effectively like a league table. And for Europe, it's slightly different.
with one person way clear in the American side.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's absurd how many points Scotty Scheffler has compared to anyone else.
Scotty Scheffler.
He is by far the best player in the world right now.
He qualified.
Probably the most dominant player, relatively speaking, since Tiger, you'd say, in terms of talent.
Yeah. And he qualified.
Whether or not he has Tiger's drive,
for
I don't know.
In June or something like that, like months in advance.
Well, he was always going either way, wasn't he, unless he was injured.
Yeah, I mean, he would have been picked if he hadn't made it.
Could have stayed in bed all year and still got a captain's pick.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's how the Americans do it. The Europeans, they basically do it a point system, which isn't correlated to money necessarily. You get 5,000 points per event for major championships, and then for PGA Tour, signature events, Players' Championships, FedEx Cup playoffs, 3,000 points. DP World Tour, Rolex Series events, PGA Tour, regular FedEx Cup events, 2,000 points. And then there's a couple of other events which you get points depending on how well you do there. But again, it's the same principle. It's a league system. There used to be 2 lists for Europe. There is now only 1, which does simplify it somewhat. Yeah, and you already said Scotty Scheffler. He qualified number 1 for the Americans. JJ Spawn 2. Xander Schauffele 3, Russell Henley 4, Harris English 5, and Bryson DeChambeau got the 6th autos. The Americans then decided, Keegan Bradley then decided to pick the people that finished 7th, 8th, and 9th, or...
I think so, yeah.
And 10th, I think, actually, which were Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Ben Griffin, and Cameron Young. No, it was 9th, sorry. So Cameron Young didn't finish 10th. But then they picked Cameron Young, Patrick Cantlay, and Sam Burns. And the unlucky guys to have missed out were Maverick McNeely, who finished 10th, Brian Harmon 12th, and Andrew Novak, who finished 13th. But nobody outside the top 15 in the list was selected for the Americans. They are stacked, mate. They have 7 of the world's top 10, which are Scheffler, Schauffele, Henley, Thomas, Morikawa, Spawn, and English. And this is always the case. The Yanks go into this with easily the heaviest of the artillery, so to speak. Yes,
it is normally the case, but it doesn't always correlate to the final result.
It does not, and we will come to that because the Americans eat a lot of humble pie in this event. They do, which is awesome,
especially when they're in Europe.
Especially when they come to our house. But yes, before we talk about where this one is, I'll just say Luke Donald is the European captain, the Ryder Cup winning captain from Rome.
And second time in a row, the first time for 30 years that a European captain has retained it from tournament to tournament. The last time was, I think, the mid-90s.
Yeah. He's the first person to repeat his captaincy since Bernard Gallagher in 93, maybe. And Donald has also played in
impressive.
4 and won all 4 as a player as well. So yeah, he didn't need to pick Rory McIlroy, obviously, Robert McIntyre, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Rasmus Højgaard, or Tyrrell Hatton. And if you haven't seen Tyrrell Hatton's interview explaining about how he got absolutely smashed up with Jon Rahm and woke up with puke all over himself because he was out celebrating qualifying for the Ryder Cup, then you should, because it's a very good interview.
I saw the headline. I never clicked on it. I'll have to do that.
He basically just says that he just went out and had an absolute time and then nearly missed a flight. But he's very honest about it. He says, he starts off by saying, I'm not going to talk about it. And then one of the journos is like, oh, go on. And he's like, look, if you want to know, I'll tell you. And then he does. So yeah,
he's a character.
Yeah. And those 6 qualified autos. And then the picks were Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka, Ludvig Aberg, or Arberg, I think it's pronounced in Swedish, Victor Hovland, Mats Fitzpatrick, and Jon Rahm. That is actually the top 11 in the list anyway, except Rahm, who is ranked 24th. And he's only ranked so lowly because he competes in the Live Golf Breakaway League thing. The unlucky individual, therefore, was Matt Wallace, who came 12th but wasn't selected. And Europe have got 3 of the world's top 10. So, we are talking here the top 24 guys in the world, give or take.
give or take. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's boss. The matchups, therefore, are absolutely loaded every single time. Like, you obviously don't know who you're necessarily going to get, but in the four balls and the foursomes, you'll almost certainly end up with, a few heavy matchups because you want to try and win points with your best players, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the format just lends itself so nicely to drama. It is relatively rare that you end up with a blowout. I think it was 4 years ago, last time I was in America, it was a bit of a damp squib. The Americans unfortunately taking it that time. But yeah, the Americans don't tend to win in Europe. In fact, it's been an awful long time since they have won in Europe. So yeah, it's their chance this year. Obviously, it is being held in New York State this year.
Yeah, it's being held. It's the 45th Ryder Cup, and it is being held at Bethpage State Park in Farmingdale, New York, on the Black Course, which is the most difficult of Bethpage's 5 courses. And it has a warning on the first tee, which basically says, if you're really shit at golf, do not play here.
Seems fair.
It literally
Won't
says...
apply to any of our protagonists this year.
No, definitely not. But there is actually a warning sign which says, warning, the Black Course is an extremely difficult course, which we recommend only highly skilled golfers play.
Excellent. Yeah, it's interesting, actually, the choices they make of courses. You end up with some courses that tend to repeat themselves and tend to be regular Ryder Cup courses. And then there's some courses you'd think, oh, well, of course Europe are going to host one at St Andrews or something, but they never have. There's never been one at St Andrews. It just can't handle the infrastructure. It doesn't have the infrastructure you need to handle that many fans and that big an event. It does the Open sometimes, but you can get away with that because it's there's traditions and everything involved that make up for it. But no, the Ryder Cup is a completely different kettle of fish, really.
Yeah,
so, it's interesting.
No, it is very interesting. I mean, Bethpage has not hosted that many other majors, really. It hosted the 2019 PGA Championship, which I think Brooks Koepka won. And it's also held the US Open twice in 2009 and 2002. Tiger won in 2002 there. It's held a couple of other PGA Tour events and FedEx Cup playoff events, I think. But it's but you're right. Like Augusta. I'm not sure there's ever been one there.
No, there hasn't been. But again, that's sort of they're very. I think they consider it lucky that they put on the Masters every year and actually let outsiders in. So doing it twice in 1 year, I think, would be beyond the men in charge at Augusta. Or sorry, the men and women in charge. Or the man and woman in charge, whatever it is nowadays. But yeah. Once a year is quite enough. And it's 1993 anyway was the last time the USA won in Europe. So they're going to want to win it this year because in 2 years' time they won't be favourites.
Yeah, well, they should be favourites every time they bloody play this thing, but
in theory they should be. Yeah, when have they ever gone into it with the worst players?
Bunch of individuals, though.
Yeah, not a team.
Not a team. They don't get it. Yeah, no prize money for it either, which I think is obviously a very cool thing, but
don't need it. I mean, they're rich enough already.
They are so rich.
I think by definition, if you've been successful enough to make the Ryder Cup team, you don't need money for the Ryder Cup.
No.
The pride and the profile is enough.
It definitely should be. Did you want to talk about where it came from? Do you know anything about that?
Only a little bit. I haven't really got too much detail over it. I'll keep it brief. Essentially, back in the day, obviously, it was a bit more of a big deal to go across the seas to take on a sport in a different country because there was no flight. There was no quick options to get across the Atlantic, for example. So
boat, isn't it?
When the United States team sent over a delegation, essentially, to play in the Open Championship, for example, they'd often also have some match play sort of events against sort of an English team that's been selected. Happened a couple of times in the 1920s, once at Glen Eagles in 1921 and once at Wentworth in 1926. And the Wentworth event in 1926, a man named Samuel Ryder, who's actually a very interesting man. He didn't even start playing golf until the age of 50. He basically used to be a cricketer in his youth and was experiencing some ill health. And basically a doctor, as doctors did in the day, recommended fresh air as a solution and specifically recommended golf to him, saying that it would obviously be something he might enjoy and get him out and about. He fell in love with it instantly. Within a year, he was playing off a single-digit handicap. So he was good at it and obviously a big enthusiast. But he was a businessman as well. So he had bit of money behind him, and he liked to throw it at golf-related causes particularly. So one thing he did, Mr. Ryder, was he bought a cup for the event at Wentworth in 1926 to award to the winning team, except he changed his mind and decided that he would actually award it for a follow-up competition the following year, Worcester, Massachusetts. So they had a match where the British delegation went over, and unfortunately the United States won the first Ryder Cup, 9.5 to 2.5, and that set a pretty strong trend because for the remaining time, so I should point out it was the United States versus Great Britain initially, and then it became Great Britain and Ireland, and then it was only in 1979 it became Europe as the opponent. And in that period where it was Great Britain versus the United States or Great Britain and Ireland, let's just say only really one team ever used to win it. Yeah, I think there's only a couple of occasions where the British team. Yeah, 1957, and then one of the early ones, was it 29? Fairly early, 1929, we won it. So we got to the point, obviously, where I think it was almost a bone that the United States threw, or as a suggestion, why don't you invite some players from other countries to join in as well? And it's probably a suggestion that they regret, because since it's become Europe versus the United States, initially the United States continued winning, but from 1985 onwards, I think the United States have only won 6 times, and I think Europe's record is 13 times won and 1 time tied, but that was a retaining tie.
Yes, it was.
So they only had to tie to retain it. So, since that decision was made, Europe have been largely the dominant team, obviously opening up the pool of players available, and one nation in particular has provided a lot of players, which I don't think Europe would have been anywhere near as successful as they were without this particular nation. Can you guess what that nation is, Ben?
Yes, Spain.
It's Spain. It's
if you know about the Ryder Cup, it's Spain, right? Like, just very quickly to contextualize what you were saying before, it's 27-15 overall to the USA, but since 79, it's 12-9 to Europe with 1 draw.
Yeah, and since 85, it'll be 12-6. To Europe with 1 draw. Yeah,
because from 95 to 2014, Europe won 8 of 10 as well.
And as I said, Europe have won at least every other time it's been held since 1993, because USA have not won in Europe since 1993.
And that is because of Spain, in a large part.
It is. Yeah. Before I get into that, actually, there is one more thing I'd like to talk about just in terms of the hosting, because I think this is mildly interesting. So until 1973, no event was held outside England or United States. They obviously alternate who hosts the event. It was always held in either England or the United States. In 1973, Muirfield in Scotland hosted it, and that was the first time it was held outside of England when Great Britain were hosting. The first event in continental Europe was in 1997 at Valderrama Golf Club in Andalucía in Spain, and 2006, the first time it was hosted in Ireland. And then Scotland, France, and Italy have hosted it recently. In fact, the last time it was hosted in England now was 2002, where it was hosted at the Belfry in Warwickshire. Neither of the next 2 European editions as well will be held in England, meaning it'll be at least 33 years between events. Presuming the one after that is held in England, it would have been 33 years it has been hosted in England, which I'm okay with, because you're making up the lost time a little bit. Yeah. So it's been held in Wales as well, I should point out, at Celtic Manor.
Yeah, it has, which is in Newport.
Yeah.
You pass through it on the train. I think you can see Celtic Manor from the train, in fact.
I imagine it's a very pleasant thing to look at.
It's on a hill.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, Spaniards.
Get
back on topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason I've kind of gone down this rabbit hole a little bit is because I was originally going to talk about one man, and it'll come as no shock to anyone who knows about the Ryder Cup or golf, or European golf, to know that man was Seve Ballesteros, who we already mentioned in the Masters episode. Obviously, he was a Masters champion. Probably the most beloved sportsman, European sportsman, non-British sportsman in Great Britain, I would say. He died in 2011 of brain cancer, sadly, at the age of only 54 years old. And the outpouring of grief and respect that people have for him was astonishing. The captain of the 2012 Ryder Cup team was Jose Maria Olazabal, who was a teammate and friend of Seve, and obviously Europe went on to win that tournament, as we will mention soon. So that was an extremely emotional moment in golf. But one of the main reasons he was so beloved and so adored and so respected was because of what he brought to the Ryder Cup, not just in terms of his performances, but in terms of the sort of things I was saying earlier, in terms of his attitude and his approach to how to play the golf, the way he was nowhere near the conservative, cerebral sort of approach as was traditional in golf before. Like,
he was a maverick, wasn't he?
Yeah, the idea you could win the Ryder Cup with like calm, calculated play. I mean, it obviously wasn't working for Europe or for Great Britain prior to that, because they just never won it. And then along he came. 1979 was the first time he played as a part of the first two Spaniards, or the first two non-British people involved in the Ryder Cup once it became Europe in 1979. He's a legend. And then, like, beyond him as well, in terms of Spaniards, I'm not just, the reason I wanted to talk about more than just Seve was because just look at the records for the Ryder Cup. The record for the youngest ever player, Sergio Garcia. The record for the most points ever in the Ryder Cup is Sergio Garcia. 28 and a half over 10 events.
25 wins, 13 losses and 7 halves, I think.
Incredible. It's good longevity as well, but also just a great record once there. And obviously the record for the most points won by a pairing across 4-horse foursomes and everything. Seve Ballesteros and Jose Maria Olazabal winning 11 and halving 2 for 12 points total. Garcia also has the most foursomes and joint most foursome points individually, alongside Ian Woosnam and Jose Maria Olazabal. So it, like, as I said, Olazabal captained Europe as well.
Yeah, and Garcia will at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, he will, I'm sure. Absolutely certain.
Seve did too, didn't he?
Yes, he did, in 1995, 97? 97, because that was one held in Spain for the first time. As if I even need to mention, Sergio Garcia played in that 2012 event as well, just after Seve's death, and did his bit as well with a couple of points, including beating Jim Furyk in the comeback, but I won't get ahead of myself too much there. So there's almost been a Spanish player. I haven't actually checked this, but there must have been a Spanish player in the vast majority of Ryder Cup since 1979. If there hasn't, it's been a tiny number where there wasn't. Garcia missed the 2023 event, and he obviously won't be picked this year. It may well be that his playing career is done, but as you say, his captaincy career is almost certainly to come in the future. But at that point, Jon Rahm has come in. Rambo himself has come in to fill in the gap.
Just hitting bombs.
One of my favourite players. Yeah, I love him. I love watching him. He's a great entertainer, and another Spaniard who is helping this team along. Like, basically, I mean, to summarise, you can make a huge argument that Europe would just not have had the success they've had, 12 wins and a retaining tie in the 19 Cups since 1985, without this Spanish contribution. I mean, Seve himself, he's almost a mythical figure in, as I said, in the Ryder Cup and European golf generally. He was so different in style to the majority of golfers at the time. He wasn't taught the game amidst the sort of stuffy conservative decorum that most people were. But he just played as he saw fit, sort of theatrically, aggressively. Immense ability to improvise when under pressure, leading to like this flair for making seemingly impossible recovery shots. And like I said, like this didn't just make fans fall in love with you. The Ryder Cup is a unique challenge in golf, being both a match play tournament where winning each hole gets you a point rather than each stroke being counted, and also a team event. And this is crucial because both these things mean someone like Seve can afford to gamble and try the extraordinary. Worst case, a hole might be lost, whereas in stroke play competition, you might completely blow your 4 days by trying something spectacular at the wrong moment. But you can do it. You can get away with it in match play golf because worst case, you just lose the hole. But best case scenario, the crowd get fired up, your teammates get fired back. Momentum is contagious. Like, one amazing shot can change the flow of an entire competition. And Seve showed this and rewired the team's appetite for taking risks, essentially, showing the golfing world that, the Americans could be unsettled by the audacious, which has, I mean, I'm not putting everything on Seve. I mean, he was a brilliant player even beyond that, but the way Europe approached this, it feels like they know what they're doing. It feels like they're willing to take risks and put these mavericks in the team, and the likes of Ian Poulter and the likes of obviously others who will try the spectacular sometimes and may not have the best career, relatively speaking, in stroke play competitions, but turn up.
They definitely have a far more familiar and comfortable with the strategy required to win this. I think, golf enthusiasts will probably say this is an oversimplification, but you could make the general point that America's successes have come off the back of sheer talent Whereas I would say the Europeans often manufacture their wins through strategy and like embracing like the team culture.
Yeah, I definitely see the team culture is a big part of it, and just the willingness to. I mean, it's obviously, as we said at the beginning, these are probably the best 20 or among the best 20 or 30 players in the world. 24 of the best 30 players in the world, probably. But Europe have always been willing to pick the Ryder Cup specialist. I feel like,
yes,
Poulter being the example. Yeah, get him in and use his motivation, whatever it is him as an influence, as a beacon to this is how we play, kind of thing. Yeah,
he like personifies, like a team, like a team spirit, doesn't he?
Yeah,
the postman, as they say, because
always delivers. Yes,
yeah.
But I was going to talk about just a couple of events in the mid '80s as well, just to talk about how the tide turned for Europe after, as I say, by 1983.
Yes, do that. Because the first event I want to talk about is 1991, so that's a lovely little lead-in.
Perfect. Look at this. Bouncing off each other, completely accidentally, no planning whatsoever. Just naturals. Yeah. Naturals, baby.
Not manufactured.
So Seve, as I said, he made his debut in 1979 alongside fellow countryman Antonio Garrido, which was a bad showing for the brand new Europe team in West Virginia. He was left out in 1981 for political reasons, shall we say, before he roared back in a much better showing for Europe in 1983. They did lose, but they went down by a single point at Palm Beach, so it sort of set the scene like,
we're coming for you.
One reversal of a singles result would have changed the result there. So, breathing down your neck. 1985 was the year, though. 1985. For the first time since 1957, the US were defeated. At the Belfry in Warwickshire, Tony Jacklin was the team captain, and they won 16.5 to 11.5 with 4 Spaniards in the team. So 16.5 points for Europe, 4 Spaniards in the team. Do you know how many points those 4 Spaniards put up between them? Do you want to have a guess?
Well, 4 as a minimum, because I assume they all won their singles. So higher than 4.
But
10.
Lower than 16.5.
10.
11.
Ooh, that's still ridiculous.
So, I mean, yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. That's about double what the par would be if they were just putting in their fair share, essentially.
Yeah.
So those 4 were Miguel Pinheiro, Seve, obviously, Jose Maria Canizares, and Jose Rivero, 1985. So, yeah, let me reiterate, Europe would not have had the success they had without Spanish golfers. And that is just the most intense example of it. Spain dragged Europe to its first Ryder Cup win in many years in 1985. But even better was to come, because there's one thing, it's one thing having not won it since 1957. It's another thing having never won in the United States.
Yeah.
In 1987, Europe had never won in the United States. They headed to Muirfield Village in Ohio, to Norton 13 records up to this point on American soil in the Ryder Cup. And there was a new Spaniard in the team, one Jose Maria Olazabal, about to start the most iconic partnership in Ryder Cup history.
That's not an exaggeration either.
It's not.
Nor bias. It's just true.
No.
Yeah.
So Olazabal, as I mentioned, he was like the calm head to Seve's talent and his
swashbuckling approach. Yeah.
Maverick approach. So between them, they just worked, and straight away they won 3 out of their 4 matches as a pair to leave Europe 5 points up heading into Singles Sunday. But things didn't start well for Europe on the Singles Sunday. USA taking the first 7 singles matches 5.5 to 1.5 to take the score back to within 1 point. Olazabal actually was beaten in that by Payne Stewart, future US Open winner, and sadly lost in a plane crash in 1999, which I remember very well.
Yeah, he did. He died on a Learjet, didn't he? Which it depressurized and everyone got hypoxia and passed out, and then it just flew around in the sky on autopilot till it ran out of fuel. Absolutely insane.
I think you ask anyone in my family about, because I used to really hate flying. And I think that probably contributed to it being so high profile and being so just shocking, ultimately shocking. I was 11 at the time, and probably about the time I was just starting flying, as we were living in Germany at the time, flying back sometimes.
Payne Stewart was gone as well. He probably would have.
He won the US Open not long before.
And he was like 3rd on the earnings list and things like that. I think I can't remember. He was, he wasn't shit. He's going to come up again as well, Mr. Stewart.
Yeah. Yeah, he beat Olafable, as I say, during this USA, what turned out to be a aborted comeback because Irishman Eamon Darcy beat Ben Crenshaw to re-establish a 2-point lead for Europe. Bernard Langer then halved against Larry Nelson, meaning if Seve could see off Curtis Strange, the streak was over and the cup was Europe. So Seve and Strange had already had some tension in the competition, so they were playing in the 4 balls, and to quote Strange, he said, "By the end of the first hole, I wanted to fucking kill him." That's a direct quote. It was basically they had a minor disagreement over some etiquette, and then Seve just walked up to his ball and chipped in from the edge of the green. And just stared him down, and I'm just like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
It all came down to the 17th hole anyway. Ballesteros ended up holding the winning putt to prompt probably the most famous celebration in Ryder Cup history, which was Jose Maria Olazabal dancing what is described as a joyful jig, which is lovely. And Europe had won for the first time in the United States, and all was well in the world. There's been many wins since then. As I say, these 287 particularly turned the tide.
Yeah.
And Europe have been the relatively predominant team since. So, yeah, Seve, what a guy.
Indeed. And it probably turned the tide in making the Americans a bunch of barbarians.
You reckon?
Who misbehaved pretty consistently from that day forth. You're terrible losers. That probably contributes to you being really good at sport generally. So, keep your hats on, not having a go at your prowess. But I am saying that you're terrible losers. And
I'll set yourself. Well, first of all, go for it. I mean, yeah, your words, not mine. But I'm just nodding along here in the background.
This is a sport that this is played in a spirit of sportsmanship, respect, etiquette, tradition, graciousness. One might say, courtesy, certainly civility, mate. And those are all the attributes that the American lacks.
Do you mean when it comes to the Ryder Cup?
When it comes to the Ryder Cup. When it comes to the Ryder Cup. Yeah, I'm not going in on all Americans and their general culture, of which they are, I'm sure, very proud, and rightfully so. But they don't always conduct themselves particularly well in the Ryder Cup. And I think
Indeed.
that the dissolution of their dominance in this event probably contributed to that. And it all really, the first glaring example of it was in the first event that I want to talk about, which is in the 1991 Ryder Cup, which got nicknamed the War on the Shore.
So just to give you some context, obviously I've taken you up to 1987. 1989 was the drawn competition.
Yeah.
So Europe retained the trophy at the Belfry in 1989. So America, by this point, hadn't won it since 1983. So probably quite desperately wanted it back.
Yeah.
Take it away, Ben.
Well, look, the whole thing was just defined by their repeated gamesmanship, bad sportsmanship, and will and questionable tactics, basically. And it started from the get-go. There was a ceremonial opening dinner, and the PGA of America.
Sounds very civil.
Yeah, well, you'd think so, right? But they played the PGA of America played 2 videos, which the Europeans didn't take particularly kindly to because they weren't, let's say that they weren't very hospitable. In that they only showed Americans playing in the Ryder Cup and winning on a highlight reel, and then the second video was a welcoming address from the then U.S. President George Bush, which he closed by basically just cheering on the American side. So it wasn't really a welcoming video; it was like a rallying cry. And I think the Europeans are a bit like, what the hell's going on here? CC, the civility, the respect, the etiquette, the tradition that is lacking already. And then the first morning of that competition, so the Friday morning, is it Fred Azinger? Was it Fred his first name? I think it was. I might be wrong.
It rings a bell, that name.
Anyway, Azinger and a chap called Chip Beck were paired up against our 2 protagonists that you've already given a very detailed introduction to, Seve and Jose Maria Olazabal, in a foursomes match. So the alternate shot version.
Paul Azinger, sorry, not Fred. Yes.
I'm mixing my names, my
Fred
American
couples.
golfers. Yes, okay. Anyhow.
There's a lot of Paul, Chip, Fred, Hale, Wayne, Corey, and Payne, and Lanny.
Very
Some
American
good names in the American team.
Very American. Yes, so sorry. Azinger and Beck up against Ballesteros and Olazabal in a foursomes match, so alternate shots. And the sort of bad blood started almost immediately with Azinger and Beck accusing Ballesteros of gamesmanship on account of clearing his throat during Beck's shots. But
How dare he?
But later, yeah, well, you think they've got the moral high ground, Jack. You'd be wrong. So later in the same match, Azinger and Beck, who were playing with the same brand and make of a ball, but a slightly different model, switched their balls, allegedly on several occasions, although they denied it every time they were accused. And whilst like switching the ball was not necessarily like an advantage, like sporting wise, it was against the rules. So there was a one ball rule, and so you just were not allowed to do it. And so obviously you should be able to be sanctioned, shot punishment or whatever, like penalty. Sorry, and a few look, Ballesteros eventually became aware of it, and he called the Americans out and reported the violation. Azinger kicked off and said we're not trying to cheat, and Ballesteros was like, I don't care. There's a difference between cheating and breaking the rules, but they're both things you're not allowed to do. But the violation was basically reported out of time, and so there was no repercussions for the Americans. And because they realised that there were no repercussions, they then admitted that they had done the very thing that we were accusing them of. So they had broken the rules. And then that led to obviously a bit of animosity, and there was quite a lot of goading between Ballesteros and Azinger. But the Spaniards obviously won 2-1. After the reason I mentioned this is because it's quite funny. After that match, Ballesteros is reported to have said the American team has 11 nice guys and Paul Azinger. Anyway,
fair enough.
It didn't stop there. The morning of the Saturday foursomes, Ballesteros again with Olazabal. Up against Raymond Floyd and Fred Couples this time. Ballesteros, coughing, comes to the fore again. This led to Floyd approaching him and basically threatening him. The whole thing was just sort of clouded in this kind of tone, essentially, and some very excitable advertising by the American media. There was obviously quite intense home support. Yeah, I think it was also at the time of the first Iraq War. And I think Corey Pavin had worn a Desert Storm baseball cap or something in support of the US war coalition effort, which was quite controversial at the time. But anyway, what this all came down to, and you'll be familiar with this, mate, because it's in golfing infamy, is that this match culminated in one of the single most dramatic putts ever. Only one match left to be completed between Hale Irwin of the United States and one Bernard Langer for the Europeans.
Yes.
And the US led by 1 point. Irwin and Langer came onto the last hole tied. So to win the cup, the Americans needed Irwin to win or tie the match by winning or tying the hole. And the Europeans could keep the cup if Langer could win the hole and therefore the match. Both players really struggled. They found themselves facing a pair of putts. Langer had a 6-foot putt, and Irwin had a 18-inch putt, but uphill for bogey. And even though it was obviously quite short, Irwin's putt, to everyone's surprise, Langer conceded it, which left himself needing to basically a must-make putt from 6 foot. And Langer famously missed. The match was halved. The US team took the cup home. They won 14.5, 13.5 on the final putt of the final game on the 18th. And they obviously retained it. But, if you're happy winning that way, no problem. Didn't affect Bernard Langer's career. He would go on. Well, he was already a veteran of 5 Ryder Cups, but and was playing with a winning record. Didn't define him though. He went to another 4, winning 3, and he also captained Europe to a win as well. So he would have his day in the sun and his vengeance.
It just I don't know, the gamesmanship. I mean, obviously we talk about this being a team game and the need to get in someone else's head, but it's not the way you get in the head. You get in the head by being better than them or by doing the spectacular, by chest pumping or whatever you need to do. I don't know. It just feels a bit gamesmanshipy to me, especially when you think it was only 22 years before this, 1969, when one of the most famous moments of sportsmanship happened in the Ryder Cup, where Tony Jacklin and Jack Nicklaus were playing the last hole together. I think Nicklaus putted for par, and then Jacklin had a putt, and Nicklaus just conceded it straight away, which obviously Jacklin may or may not have missed, but had he missed, he'd have lost the game, and it would have been a win for the United States in the event. It actually turned out to be a draw, the overall. So I think they drew 14-all, or whatever the scoring was at the time. 16-all, I think it was. So yeah, he basically conceded the chance for the USA to win overall for the sake of sportsmanship, shook his hand, and one of the greatest moments of sportsmanship in Ryder Cup history, the concession, as it's called, which pissed off a lot of his teammates. I think Sam Snead particularly said that if he was in this situation, he damn sure would have made sure he putted, because he might be getting the win out of it overall. Like, they didn't come here just to draw.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, maybe they should take a leaf out of Jack Nicklaus's book more often then, because you'd think 1991 was an anomaly and that's why it's gone down in infamy, but no.
You'd think it was the worst of it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
It got bloody worse. Bunch of hooligans. So
they started the 90s badly. How did they end the 90s, Ben?
Yeah, they ended it badly in all. 1999, the Battle of Brookline. Jesus. The behaviour of both the media, the spectators, and the team was pretty poor. It got so bad that the American media turned on their own team by the end of it, even though they had been a complicit partner for a while.
Which takes a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. It was sort of basically the whole event was underpinned by US spectators like raucously heckling and abusing European players. There were allegations made regarding cheating on the part of course marshals. Andrew Coulthard's caddy, who's one of the European players, claimed that a course marshal had concealed Coulthard's lost ball for 5 minutes till basically a time limit elapsed, resulting in a one-stroke penalty for Coulthard. Veteran broadcaster Alistair Cook, who was I think a pretty famous broadcaster in America, he was actually British-American as well, just ironically. He's said to have written in a sort of an open letter to America entitled "The Arrival of the Golf Hooligan," that the tournament was a date that would live in infamy because of the. Because
I mean, that's a very weighted sentence that in American history, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah, of course. I think he's talking in the context of sport and golf, hence the reason "The Arrival of the Golf Hooligan." But nonetheless, a pretty damning indictment on everyone's behaviour. In the lead up to it, again, it all started from the get-go. In the lead up to it, the aforementioned Payne Stewart said of the European team, on paper they should be caddying for us, which is highly disrespectful, considering the context that we've set around this tournament already.
That's just rude.
Very.
I mean, if you're still dominant, that's fair enough, but don't be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Take a seat. Bearing in mind they, going into this, had not won for the previous two iterations. They defended 93, but then they lost 95, 97. So they were coming into this trying to again retain it. So again, a theme emerging, Jack, about how Americans conduct themselves when they are losers. Yeah,
when they're under pressure. It is one way of going about it. It's just a bit of a smelly, horrible way of going about it.
It's just a bit shit, isn't it?
It's not the way.
Yeah. If you're proud of that, no problem. Jeff Magger echoed the sentiment of Stewart as well in a press conference, saying, let's face it, we've got the best 12 players in the world. And it didn't start well for them, to be fair. So they were given some humble pie to eat, but it would set things up for a pretty dramatic end to this event. The US were trailing 10-6 at the start of the final day. Europe only needing 4 points to retain, because obviously they were the holders. But the Americans rallied pretty hard on the Sunday. They won the first 6 matches, surged into the lead, and then further wins by Steve Pate or Pate. I don't know if there's an accent over the
Pate. But Pate is much funnier.
Yeah, and Jim Furyk took them into a 14-12 lead. And basically the competition turned on the 17th in a match between Justin Leonard and Jose Maria Olazabal again. Match all square. Leonard needed to earn at least half a point to seal the American victory because they were on 14. Olazabal's second shot left him with a 22-foot putt, and Leonard hit his shot within 10 feet of the hole, but then watched it roll away, leaving him with a 45-foot putt for birdie. Leonard had made putts of 25 and 35 foot already, and had actually clawed back like a pretty big Olazabal lead. Anyway, we all know what happens if we know anything about golf, but for those of you who don't, Leonard drains this monster putt, and it cue wild, feral, some would say, celebrations.
Feral is a good description. With bear in mind, Olazabal still has his putt to make.
Yes. He hasn't putted, and so the Americans are running onto the green. They're running over it's like their players, their wives, some of the fans, the cameramen. Like they're all running on, and then basically it hadn't even guaranteed a half point for Leonard, because if Olazabal could hole it, then obviously he would win the hole.
Yeah.
But he missed. But the reason it was shrouded in controversy was because in the wild celebrations, they ran across Olazabal's line, which is like a big no-no in golfing etiquette.
Bad etiquette, yeah.
Because it might affect the way in which the green and the grass lies and make the putt more difficult and blah, blah, blah. The Americans started celebrating again. Anyway, because they had their half point and the crowd was in such a bloody frenzy, marshals were literally unable to keep order and keep control of it. So Payne Stewart conceded a putt to Montgomery on the 18th, which is pretty much the only gesture of sportsmanship made by the Americans across the weekend. Montgomery had been subject to such ridiculous abuse throughout that his father had to leave the course.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And so the US ended up winning 14.5.
Colin Montgomery is such a lovely guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's very harmless.
Yeah. The Americans won 14.5, 13.5, winning 8.5 to 3.5 in the singles matches. So, like you say, because Colin Montgomery was such a nice guy, there was like an outrageous amount of like disappointment with the conduct of the American team. Sam Torrance branded Tom Lehman's behaviour disgusting.
Sounds fair.
And said he was disgusting for someone who calls himself a man of God. Which,
oh, Jesus. I mean, probably not wrong.
Yeah. European captain Mark
Practice
James.
what you preach.
If you think that we're being oversensitive here, the European captain described the atmosphere as a bear pit. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, except for the fact that someone spat at his wife.
What? What did she do to deserve that?
Yeah, well, do you know what I mean? The Washington Post stated that it seems that an American team can't get through an international competition without acting like jackasses at some point. and the Los Angeles Times described the American team as having violated every principle of proper golf decorum and decent manners. It's their own press talking about it. That's crazy.
That's exactly. And the American press. When did the American press criticize a winning American team?
Yeah.
That's how bad they are.
It was crazy.
This is a very partisan press, just like the British press. I'm not going to say British press is any better, but
no.
When your own press is against you,
you've cocked up. Yeah.
You're in the wrong.
And I think
maybe you're the bad guys.
That slowly dawned on them because many members of the team have since apologised for their behaviour. And there have been numerous attempts since, as you might imagine, to sort of rein in the nationalism of the event a bit.
Just a bit, yeah.
And that was the largest final day comeback victory in the history of the Ryder Cup at that point.
So what happened then? What changed?
Well, we carried on dicking them. That's the first thing that happened. So after Brookline... there
wasn't another for 3 years, was there? Because
yes.
There was meant to be one in September 2001, which was delayed by a year for obvious reasons, if you know anything about September 2001.
Yes.
So that's why we went back to even years for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was delayed again in 2020 to 2021, so we're back on odd years now. Anyway, just on a tangent, mention that.
The Americans won in Valhalla in 2008, but Europe won it at Celtic Manor 2010, as you said, and then Europe went out to Medina with a view to retaining.
Medina. It's a word that just fills me with joy.
Yeah.
And memory.
You asked me what happened. Well, a miracle happened, Jack. A miracle.
Do you believe in miracles?
Do you believe in miracles? Yeah, exactly. Suck on it.
Can't wait for the Winter Olympics. Sorry, getting ahead of myself.
Yes, the Miracle in Medina, or Miracle at Medina, rather, up against a very stacked American side, including Tiger Woods, Bubba Watson, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, this year's captain, Keegan Bradley, and this year's vice-captain, Jim Furyk, actually, as well. The Americans,
all right, cool.
The Americans made a blistering start, and the Europeans were down 10-4 after 14 matches. At that point, there were 2 4-ball matches still on the course, and 12 single matches to be played the next day. So there were 14 points left available. And Garcia and Donald managed to sneak past Woods and Stricker to make it 10-5. And then at the end of day 2, Ian Poulter made 5 birdies in the final 5 holes to give him and Rory McIlroy a point over Jason Duffner and Zach Johnson. So the Europeans went in. That's
so good.
That's
so
when
iconic.
That's when it started. That was
when there was hope.
The vibesman.
So momentum's contagious.
Yeah,
Momentum is contagious.
And so is pressure. It permeates. It gets into the cracks of the soul. And,
the cracks. Wherever it can get into you, it gets into you.
It gets into you. Yeah. Anyway, the Europeans entered the final day 10-6 down. They needed 8 points to retain the cup and 8.5 to win it outright, but they obviously didn't need to necessarily do that because they were the holders. As I keep mentioning, the Americans only needed 4.5 points to win it. And then Europe basically won the first singles game, first 5 singles games, and they were 11-10 up. But then the Americans, it didn't actually quite come in like this because games sort of end at different times.
When there's an unassailable lead.
Yes, exactly.
An unassailable lead, sorry.
Yeah. But if you were taking it in order of the pairings, the Europeans won the first 5 to go 11-10 up. Then the Americans won the next 2 to go back ahead 12-11. Garcia won the 8th singles game to tie it at 12-all. And then Hansen won his game for a 13-12 lead to the USA. Europe won 2 of the final singles to go 14-13 up. And then Martin Keimer struck a putt that retained the cup for Europe. And the putt, and this is where sport just does its thing. The putt was basically identical in length and angle to the one that Bernard Langer missed in the 1991 Ryder Cup that I was talking about earlier on where he had missed.
I've literally got like this shiver down my spine remembering this. It's just incredible moment. I love it.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, so had did full circle to the war on the shore. Keimer drained his putt to basically secure the Ryder Cup, and it came back to where it belongs. Molinari was still playing. Actually, he was playing Tiger, and Tiger just halved it with him on the 18th.
Yeah,
and Europe won,
which secured the overall win. Yeah. I think Tiger was winning. I think did Molinari win the last hole to clinch it?
Yeah, I think that's right.
As in clinch the overall win rather than just retaining it. Molinari is a Ryder Cup legend.
There's only 2 Molinaris, mate.
There's only 2. What does that mean?
Because his brother.
Oh right, yeah.
Yes. I think it was. Which was the one where they both played, and that was one of the songs by the Europeans. There's only 2 Molinaris.
Anyway, yeah, so I was just going to drop something about Molinari, and that there's only been 5 golfers ever to have scored 5 out of 5 possible points during a Ryder Cup.
And he did it. 4 Americans,
Arnold Palmer, Gardner Dickinson, Larry Nelson, and Dustin Johnson, and 1 European, which is Francesco Molinari in Paris in 2018, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Really?
That is incredible. Poulter actually ended this. He ended Medina with a 4-0 record.
Yeah, 4-4. I think there's only a handful who've top scored in the event with 4-4. Poulter obviously being one, and then Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, and Larry Nelson again. So Larry Nelson got 5-5 in 79, and then 4-4 in 81 in his first 2 Ryder Cups, and then proceeded to only play 1 more Ryder Cup where he didn't win a single game, just to balance his record out a bit. But he was 9 from 9 for his first 2 Ryder Cups, which is incredible.
Wow.
But anyway, not as incredible as the European comeback at Medina.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. We out of the 12 points available on the final day, Europe won 8.5. The US winning 3.5, which obviously matched Brookline. And then the Americans took it well. They took it really, really well, like they do. It's basically not known as the miracle at Medina in America. It's known as the meltdown at Medina. And I think
but this is the one thing the American press will attack their teams for:
losing
when they have meltdowns and when they lose.
Yeah. I think the Wall Street Journal said, or they asked rather, how can such an extremely talented American Ryder Cup team blow a final day lead as large as has ever been blown in 85 years of Ryder Cup history? The Chicago Tribune,
momentum, baby.
Yeah. Chicago Tribune called it inexcusable, and this is the thing that's really, really funny. Some newspapers didn't even print a story on it; they just ignored it.
That's made me so happy.
Yeah, I know.
That's funnier than the press meltdowns entirely. Oh, fantastic.
So yeah, I mean, we know it's a miracle. It's not a meltdown. It was a miracle. It happened in your own backyard. It's the greatest sporting comeback in golfing history. It's one of the great sporting comebacks of all time. It was done properly. It was done with respect for the rules and the traditions of the game, and it was done away from home. Done away from home. Notice you behaved badly at home. Even you weren't even using your awful tactics away from home to give yourself an advantage or a psychological edge. You stooped to that level at home, and then you got made to eat some humble pie in 2012.
Humble pie. I think it's up there in my top 5 favourite sporting moments of all time. That Martin Keimer putt, I think, is up there genuinely, and probably about 3 of those moments happened during 2012. So yeah.
2012,
what a year.
Crazy year. But I mean, I hope the Americans that do listen to this realise that I am teasing and just stoking the fires for the rivalry that is to come at the end of this week.
Poking the bear.
Yeah. It's all done, they're great stories, and that's what makes this event so damn special and so fun. It's all in jest. That's why everyone loves sport. Sometimes people cross the line. Sometimes incredible things happen. It's all part of it. It's how the stories are made.
Yeah, absolutely. And see what stories are made this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really good one. Yeah,
I think in many ways it's better for being away, just because obviously Europe always win at home. So this way, 50-50, flip a coin who's going to win it, rather than the 100% guarantee of Europe winning at home.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting.
And the Americans are shit hot. Like, they go in.
Their lineup is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Scheffler is just nuts, but they just go so deep. Not that the Europe lineup's bad. I think golf is going for a really good time in terms of the range of talent. Not that it obviously hasn't been like that in previous years, but anyone could be anyone, except for maybe Scheffler at his best.
Yeah. Although Rory might be able to give him a run for his money.
And depends which Rory turns up.
Well, Rory loves the Ryder Cup.
Rory at the Ryder Cup is good. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, it's going to be really fun. We will be there, like not there in person, but there in spirit. I mean, geez, where do you watch it these days? In America, I think it is on NBC. Here it's on Sky. BBC will be reporting on it, and we'll have radio coverage, probably highlights as well. Yeah, those are really the only two places. I mean, I could try and list off everything in Europe, but as you always remind me, Google is our friend.
Indeed. And many other means of searching the internet exist. Some reliable and some not so reliable. But yeah, I mean, get yourself to a pub as well. It is a better atmosphere for being a team game in a pub, because everyone's cheering on their, continent, I guess.
Yeah.
More than country, but...
Yeah. That's one of the nice things about it from a European perspective, actually, is that because there isn't like a nationalism or a partisan means of support, because it is a melting pot of various different cultures and communities all coming together under the banner of Europe, which is fun.
It sounds like a really good idea, that then.
Politics. Yes.
What could go wrong, eh?
What could go wrong?
No, yeah.
Where are we going next?
Come on, Europe.
Where
are we going next?
Baseball, isn't it? Playoffs?
It's the Major League Baseball playoffs, and obviously anyone who's been listening to this podcast since day one, I constantly talk about baseball and my need to communicate baseball's stories and history and glory and brilliance and wonder, and just how bad the Colorado Rockies have been this year. I will tell you that story too. just barely avoided being the worst team ever in baseball, and then proceeded to get bad again and haven't won a game now for about 3 weeks. Anyway, baseball's fun.
Curses,
I will tell you about it.
Gun players.
Yeah. Indeed.
Homers.
Drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, we're never too far away
cheating,
from drugs.
Just downright cheating as well.
Balco.
1919.
Not always performance-enhancing drugs
cheating.
either. People on LSD and stuff, nearly throwing no-hitters, things like that.
Yeah. But here's the thing about baseball, and I'll say this now ahead of it.
It's hard not to be romantic about it.
Firstly, there's that. It's hard not to be romantic about it. Secondly, they play 162 matches each year, 30 teams in the league. And then there's AAA and AA and single A and all the way down and down and down, all playing hundreds of matches a year. And there's college. And it happens in Cuba, and it happens in Venezuela, and it happens in Japan. So much baseball is played that if it is possible for something to have happened on a baseball field, it has happened on a baseball field. Like, the pool of data points available is so big that if it can happen, it's like monkeys and typewriters.
Yeah.
You do things enough times, eventually it will happen, and it's just some crazy things have happened in the history of baseball, and I can't wait to share them with you.
That's awesome. Well,
Some of them, because I might talk for 2 hours, so please stop me, Ben.
Hopefully, well, I won't. I shan't if you're regaling us with exciting information.
But I just need to realise that in 6 months' time, there'll be a new season, and before that starts, I can talk about even more stuff.
Yeah.
Don't have to tell every story to next time one episode.
That's a thing that we're both learning. We don't have to try and tell every story in every episode. But
we are getting better at that, yeah.
But if we've dangled the carrot, if you want to learn more about it, or if you just want to hear some cool stories from years gone by, join us then. And tune into the Ryder Cup in the meantime, because it is always great. Indeed. All right, mate.
Sometimes really great.
We'll speak to you soon.
I will speak to you soon. I've enjoyed speaking to you a lot this weekend. It's been very, very, very pleasant. And if anyone happens to listen along to it, then good for them.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, mate. See you in a bit.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for listening today. My personal apologies, my mic sound wasn't at its best. One part software update, one part human error. Always do your mic checks, people. If you enjoyed it anyway, a like or a rating would be swell. And as always, please tell your friends about us. Or post on social media, or stick us on a billboard. You do you. Our theme tune is Oh Yeah by Harmony Productions. You can find us on Instagram and Blue Sky at The Sporting Almanac, or drop us an email at thesportingalmanacpodcast@gmail.com. Next up, I finally get to be nerdy and romantic about baseball. It's impossible not to be. Until then, whether you're blue and gold or red, white and blue, sport is nothing without the history that makes it. Goodbye.